What's up Saab fans around the world, and welcome back to another video. So today we are going to talk about my stamp collection, or not. We are going to continue the work on the rear wheel drive build. Even though you have not got an update on the car, there are still things happening. For example, I have found a wire to lift the engine, which is nice. And this is the B235R, and this has been stripped down, removed like all the surrounding parts. So we will bolt up this engine to the gearbox just to see how everything fits, because this block will not be used. The head will be reworked before we use it, stuff like that. But we need to continue on the build, and this is a really exciting one because I have been dying to cut into the car to like make room for the gearbox and see how everything fits with like the height and everything, because it's one thing to measure and think how it should fit, but it's another ball game to actually fit it. So this will be really nice. So first up, I will take some measurements of the gearbox, because it's the thinner part of the gearbox that's going into the chassis. So I'm gonna take some measurements and then I'm just gonna start to cut into the car. And I will save this part right here. I will not go higher than this. I think it will be good enough to actually go a really bit lower, like right here. But this will be saved for like the heat exchanger package that's going back into the car. But that's a later problem. Right now we just need to start cutting into the car and bolt up the gearbox to the engine. Right now it will be without the clutch and without the flywheel. I just want to see how well it fits. And on this block that's going into the actual car later when we are going to drive it, there are a lot more like bolt holes to make engine mounts, and this has a little bit less of those. So that's one of the reasons why we don't go with this one. And the B234 block is a little bit more solid, but I should just stop talking and get to the cutting part.
I wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name, check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain, I ingest, I retain, assess and I change, possessed by the thought I'll be free one day from society's restraints, money, clout and fame, mud, disease, a plague, we all love to hate, have to play the game, have to make a name, all our insecurities are on display. This is war with the enemy, think that it was meant to be, living in a time where disease is on every screen, I won't let them fester me, I know most are festering, negativity is a plague for the mentally weak, no mercy, all I got is working, never stop searching, never quench the thirst.
It might be a little bit too small right now, but we will start like this, I think. Or I think I will cut it a little bit higher, because I know that the shifter should go like above the tunnel and the drive shaft should go underneath. So I think we need to cut up a little bit more up into this ring, but I think we are pretty close actually.
I'm toxic and psychotic with this logic, you can't stop it, it's been chronic since I was a boy, so neurotic and chaotic.
Built to last with the webs I'm weaving, I could change the past with all I'm achieving. Got my foot on gas, never stop competing. If you break like glass, then this life's gonna eat 'em. Make mistakes real fast, then you learn how to beat 'em. If you take off the cast, you can see all the healing.
So now I'm getting ready to lift off the engine from the engine stand and install the gearbox on the other side. Then we are going to somehow lift it into the engine bay and then use like a jack or something like that to get it in place where it should sit, and we will get a first glimpse of how the engine will actually sit into the engine bay. I'm really excited, but that cutting made like the mist in here quite dusty, but let's do this. So before every gearbox installation I always use 2 of these homemade like guiding pins. So these are just some old bolt that I have reused, cut up a little bit, just simply thread it in a little bit and use it as a guide to get the gearbox in place. So it's the first time these two meet. Should be quite interesting. This is how to make a U-turn in a tight garage. A lot of fiddling to get it in place, but I have the engine somewhat centered as it is right now. It's not too far off. Maybe that it should sit like 1 centimeter higher or something like that. We will see when we measure everything out. And I don't know how it will be with the steering on this side. I think it will go like straight below the gearbox and up, we will see. It's quite tight on space, but the plan with installing the steering rack like underneath or inside of this lower subframe actually works, because it will go straight through the oil pan. I think we will need to get the little bit newer oil pan, because this is the old one and this is like reinforced, and the newer ones are a lot slimmer than this one. But even though if we get the slim one, we need to modify it slightly. And actually, I don't know, but it looks like the oil pan is hanging a little bit low in the front. But it could be like the illusion of it, because the engine doesn't sit very much lower than it does stock, but it doesn't sit this way, so maybe we will make some pan like protection in the front, so we scrape the plate before we scrape the actual oil pan. But otherwise this looks really cool. So you see here we still have access to all the hoses and everything, all connectors. We could change the DI cassette without problem. The connector will be easy to put on here, or not easy, but it will be manageable. And the engine actually sits quite nice, so we will be able to close the hood and all of those type of things. Otherwise, you know that the engine is centered, so we will, if there is problem, you can build like a little hood scoop, but that will destroy the sleeper look from outside. We want to keep it like in stock Aero. So here we have the gearbox inside, and it actually sits kind of slim like it is right now. We don't need to raise like the tunnel very much, but a little bit. So one of the goals with this build is to be able to fit everything that should sit in the interior back again. So here we have the shifter right here, and this should go to the lever that will sit right here. And I'm aiming to get some cool like short shifter or something like that to be able to throw in the gears. So this is what makes me most happy, how it looks right here, because this won't be like a ton of work to get this to actually fit together with the OEM panels and everything. It will be a little bit tight on the underside of the heating package, but I think we could solve that. Not easily, but we could solve it, because there are a lot of like dampening and stuff underneath when it sits stock. This is an epic view. So before, you know, I have turned the engine and just put it in there to see how it looks, but now it actually there with the gearbox as well, and things are fitting quite well, I would say. So we should move it in like 1 or 2 centimeters, I think. Would be nice to get like the crank wheel to hang freely and not interrupt with the subframe. And you can see here we have some space. We could cut up a little bit more and go a little bit more in. That's no problem, because we are going to have like a shaft between the gearbox and the gear selector anyways. But I think I have something right here. So this is something I got from Gearbox, and it will sit something like this. And this rod right here actually works. It just needs just a tiny bit of extension, and this will work just perfect. So here we have the balance chain delete kit. Really nice machined pieces. This goes to the block later. So I will show everything on this when we do the engine build. But this is the most important part, to see how the engine and gearbox fits together. It leans quite a lot backwards, but it's very much an illusion also because of the valve cover. Without it, it sits pretty level and pretty straight. So that's it for this video, guys. I know that it wasn't the longest video, but I rather keep them short and informative and keep you guys up to date. And you know, if you haven't got an update for a while, there is always work going on in the background, so be sure to follow me on Instagram, where I update maybe a little bit more frequently with pictures and also a little bit of information on the build. Otherwise, if you guys have any comments, any suggestions, please type them down below. Subscribe to the channel, it means a lot to me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!